So the last couple nights, we've had people that have just hung out in this main room to chat, but I can also open up a handful of breakout rooms if people want to go into smaller groups to chat with friends. So I'll go ahead and set up a couple of those. And if you want to just pop into a room and see who's there and hang out here in the main room, that's cool too.
Thank you, Amber.
And Bill, we do have a couple of people from Chatco Lab. I was on a 2-hour Zoom with them right before this one.
Wonderful. All right.
Yes, and Bill, Chatco Lab has a mini chat on May 1st. And for details in terms of time and program, if you'll look at the chatcolab.org webpage or the Facebook page for Chatco Lab, the details will be there within the next few days.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm also from Chatco Lab. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Bill. Good to see you. And it was fun to get in on a little bit of your singing. That was great.
Yes, great.
Yeah, we just need you to do some artwork now.
Oh, do you? You're too kind, Bill. You're too kind.
We're very glad that you guys joined us. Thanks so much.
I'm very
Oh, it was fun. It was fun.
great.
Yeah, I've always hoped to get to Buckeye. I hope all this stuff gets over with so I can come while I can still travel.
Well, you're more than welcome. More than welcome.
I know. And I'm sure gonna be there. First chance I get.
Chatco is done over in Utah.
Idaho.
No, Idaho.
Idaho.
Oh, yes, Idaho. I'm sorry. Started out in Washington for me, and then it moved over to Idaho. It's up in northern Idaho, and they have a really interesting place to have a workshop, and a lot of interesting people that come there and have a great time. So you're always welcome to go, and their Chatco Lab is in June.
Yeah.
Second week in June. Mhm.
Okay, second week in June.
Yeah.
So we could forward some of their information as well. And the Black Hills Rec Leaders Lab is in late September.
First of October usually.
I know, but it ends now in October, but it's starting this year in September.
Are they gonna, oh, if they have it this year, it's gonna start in September, okay.
Yeah. And my memory is not good enough to remember the date that was given, but Jim Kane, I think maybe can remember it.
You're muted, Jim.
No matter how many times that happens, you just never get used to it. September 25th to October 1st. And is that Custer, South Dakota, Bill? Just south of Rapid City.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just south of, right. And just south of Mount Rushmore, down south of the Needles.
And Crazy Horse.
Crazy horse.
Yeah, and Crazy Horse, yeah.
And it's their 75th year celebration. So it's going to be a big one.
Mm.
Bill and I will be there.
I think it's going to go.
Can you go to it but stay somewhere else? I have a brother that lives in Rapid City.
Oh, you can go there from any state.
I'm going to check into it.
You can go there from Ireland.
Check in with Karen Ward. I'll put her email in the chat.
Thanks.
What was the website for the Chatco Lab that somebody shared?
Say that again?
What was the website for the Chatco Lab?
Chatco Lab, chatcolab.org.
Okay. Because that's in June.
Or,
So
or
teachers
you,
can
or
go.
it's Northwest Leadership Laboratories Incorporated.org. If you go to Zoom, it'll bring you up all those. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Amber put it in the chat box.
all right, good.
And we have a web page on Facebook too.
I know that we've often, we've over the years shared resource people a lot of times, but this is the first time, this is another one of those silver linings. I can't recall ever being together in a meeting where we had people from other rec labs together,
Right.
at least in the
Yeah.
last couple of decades.
Well, it's been a whole new experience for all the rec labs around, so it's
Yeah, in the mini lab we had somebody from Peru, Florida, and back east, Bevy from back east, and then from the West Coast, and then from the Midwest. We had people from all over the place there. It was
Back
really fun.
50 years ago or so, they used to have what the heck did they call it? I forget. It was a United Rec Lab kind of a workshop.
Oh yeah, we
when
did.
they invited
Yeah,
workshoppers from all the different recreation leadership labs.
yeah.
And
I
had
go to two
a
of them.
what was that called?
We had one in Kansas City and one
RLW.
in Colorado Springs.
The National Rec Lab was RLW.
That's right.
Yeah,
The National
that's
Rec
it.
Leaders Lab.
Chuck Worth was on the board there for a while.
Yeah.
When was the last time they had one?
I'll bet it's been a decade or more.
Oh,
That's what I.
it's
Mhm.
been 30 years, I bet.
John Moeller, do you still do Little Rabbit Foo-Foo?
No. I would if an opportunity arose, but I haven't had an opportunity in a couple years now.
I recall you doing that in the dining hall at Recreation Unlimited for Buckeye one year. I was amazed that you were still drawing breath when you were done.
If I remember correctly, the ride home was not too pleasant because of one of my falls, but I love doing it. And someday I hope I have an opportunity with wisdom to deal with my body more appropriately.
I have a lot of questions about what you're talking about.
We are
Okay.
recording.
It involves several styrofoam cups and a meat tenderizer.
The
Or whatever
styrofoam
else I can
cup.
get my hands on.
That didn't answer my questions.
It raised more concerns, if anything.
Yeah. The styrofoam cups took the place of the rabbit, if I remember correctly. And he pulverized himself and the rabbit while the fairy came visiting and giving him the moral story.
So I played the rabbit. I was Little Bunny Frou Frou, and the cups were the field mice.
That's
and
right.
so I would go around smashing the cups. And Signy, I think the year we did it at Buckeye was the good fairy. If you know the Little Bunny Frou Frou and all that stuff, if you know the song, that's how it works. I had originally done it during the where some of the people from BLW saw us first was at the National 4-H Camping Institute, I think in Airfield, Virginia, which is where I learned, my little old state of Delaware person learned about Buckeye, because we did Little Bunny Frou Frou as part of our morning exercises there and impressed some people. I will never forget it because later on I was doing the climbing wall in one of the breakout things, and I was very nervous and not doing well at climbing. And then all of a sudden, people started chanting through. Let me tell you, whoo! So that's a shiny memory, but that's what led me eventually into showing up at Buckeye, and so I was able to perform through at Buckeye. It's something I did in the camps that we had with Delaware State 4-H back in Delaware.
That's awesome.
And that probably just opened a whole lot more questions for you, Ted, but because it's only answerable by seeing the whole rendition. It's just one of those impressive presentations.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
Thank you all. I feel so very honored that something like that gets remembered.
Truly, one of the reasons why I said these people are my people. I will come back to this place. So thank you, John.
You're very welcome.
The hard part is when certain things do get remembered.
And Jim Kane in the comments, thank you, Jim, did point out these are recorded and can be evidence. So
Lest any of you are thinking of running for public office in the future.
I will say that the shirtless warrior photos might have made a show and tell ceremony last night in the recording. So look forward to that.
Oh, wonderful.
was that the Polynesian dance you guys were talking about earlier?
Yep. So, is anybody in any of the breakouts, or would we like to go to any of them? I think everyone's here, which is also fine. It says that Michael and Toos went to the lodge, but that they didn't actually go. And they both missed their date.
Yeah, I went and nobody was there, so I came back.
Oh, okay. Well, we're glad to have you here.
I've really enjoyed the whole group, being together. And
Yeah.
Some of the things you guys have talked about from years before we got involved have just been a lot of fun.
What was your first year, Carolyn? I don't quite see my video.
Really, I'm trying to show my video and I can't.
Oh, there you are. I see you.
We figured out it was 2009.
Okay. How did you guys find us?
Oh, you got to thank Larry Hall for that. Well, I mean, we've known about it for years. We were both full-time 4-H members for years. But life gets busy, and you raise your family, and you do all that kind of stuff.
And we needed a rocket scientist.
That's right.
Oh, you need. I was wondering if that was going to be one of the trivia questions last night. Yeah. And thank Larry for getting us there.
In doing my interviews, that was a common response to how people found Buckeye. So great job, Larry.
Yeah, he was quite a
great recruiter,
ambassador.
Yeah.
Although I was embarrassed one year, the very first night I sat down across from a young educator from Colorado, and she brought 2 4-H'ers with her. And I said, "So how did you hear about Buckeye?" And she goes, "You told me about it in Tampa." Oh, yes, I did.
Whoops.
It would be interesting to hear how a number of these people, here that we're chatting with tonight originally got to Buckeye.
I worked with Pam Trout in a nonprofit agency working with youth, doing after school prevention work. So my grandparents were on farms. I'd never been in farms. I knew I lived in Montgomery County, Ohio, but I had no idea any other county. And I sat down to dinner and people ask, well, where are you from? Dayton. And then they look at me and then they say their county and I look at them and off you go from there. But she introduced me in 1999. Some people come hesitantly. When people hugged me at the welcome courtesy corps, I was like, I'm home. This is my place. And other than a little world travel, we've been back ever since.
A little world travel? That might be underselling it, Tim.
Okay. We lived in Guam for a few years, so I had to step away from committee and then lived in Virginia and convinced my bosses to let me come from there. So yes, 7,000 some hundred and odd miles away from my parents' surprise, we're moving. I really learned how to sweat over there. Just, I mean, go, it's beautiful, but.
One stamp.
My 4-H county gave Buckeye as one of the awards of the year, like Conservation Camp and Junior Leadership Camp. And I never got a chance to go during my 4-H years, but I had heard such great things about it. So when I was in college, the break happened to fall during my college's break. And I went in 1983 for the first time when they were still at in Brinkhaven at Pilgrim Hills. And that was just, it's a phenomenal place. You go there. And at the time, I don't think there was any other single event that was Buckeye-like. And now the cool thing is we take that experience out into the world and maybe create a little Buckeye everywhere we go with the other programs we do in the camps and the other conferences and things.
Jim, were you planning on going towards kind of a team building group type dynamic work, or did Buckeye help shape that?
I used to work as an engineer for this company called Kodak. I don't know if you heard, but they made this thing called film. Yeah, how much have you bought lately? Yeah, that's why I don't work there anymore. But it was like Barry maybe and Bill Alkire and folks like that. My father and grandfather called square dances, so I grew up leading social recreation. I just became like for my club and things and in 4-H and even at the state events that I would help out with. It was just a fun thing. John Fark hired me to work at Camp Ohio in 1980. Christy and I were lifeguards there, and it just, when I wrote down 4-H friendships forever, there's some things that really do last, and some of those moments are just great things. But no, I was an engineer, and then, I think you choose your first career and your second career chooses you. And maybe because we've had this Buckeye experience and all this recreation, at the end of all the talking, you need to act. And I think a lot of us have gone out in our communities and some people just in really simple ways in their churches or their youth groups, they've shared what they've learned at Buckeye and it continues to grow. I think Buckeye must be one of the healthiest rec labs in terms of membership and, meeting the needs of their community. So what a privilege. I asked Christy and Denny and I, we all got our PhDs about the same time. And I said, which 3 letters after your name do you think have more clout, PhD or BLW? And I think it'd be hard pressed nowadays to say that BLW probably does. Proud to be an alumni.
One of the advantages of having Jim working for Kodak, they had unlimited printers. So when we used to assemble our own notebooks before Buckeye. So if anybody got their sections to Jim, he would print all our notebook sections for us, free on the Kodak copiers. And usually you were limited by how much you could do, but when he had unlimited, the notebook sections got a little thicker that year. And I know now you get it as a snap drive or get it download it, because we used to assemble the whole notebook before the workshops started, and everybody had to have a notebook to carry around all weekend. So Jim copied many of those. I came the first year in 1976 as the Lorain County rep for 4-H and never quit coming until I had to miss for work once in 92 or 94. But the second year I came, I had to pay my own way. It was $60.
Wait, did you just say 60?
Yeah, $1978, which is almost $3,000 now.
And then when you move away, it's even worse because you got to throw in plane tickets.
Yeah.
Those out-of-state fees are really big.
Yeah.
Speaking of those notebooks and how we got here, I might put Amanda on the spot a little bit. But she's got a pretty great story.
So my mom was a 4-H program assistant in Hardin County, and that's where I'm an educator now. And the year I was born, she was working full-time for the extension office. And the first trip she went to after I was born was Buckeye. And because we are extension, we throw nothing away. And my first year on the job, they said, you know, it would be really good for you to meet people. Why don't you go to Buckeye? And I was like, okay, fine. And the educator said, here's the binder. And I opened the binder, and there's a warm fuzzy inside the binder with my name embossed on it and a note from my mom that said, I love you, I miss you. And she never gave it to me, but there it was. And that's when I knew, like, this was the job for me. I found my place. And I shared a cubicle with my mom for 4 summers. I don't recommend it. Do not share a desk with your mom, but it was really great. And I do remember the first time I met Bill and John, because I was a member in Hardin County of 4-H, and they came to a leadership event with their Thunderbirds, and we did some leadership activities, and we had these diaries that we had to write in. And I can recall writing, this was the best time. It was so fun. We sang great songs, we played games. And then my best friend who went with me had wrote, those were the weirdest guys ever. But I do remember it very specifically.
Christy, didn't you come to Buckeye after you graduated and before you started your job?
Yes, so I came to Buckeye for the first time on the day I graduated from college, mostly in tears because my parents had come and we'd gone to graduation and they had taken us all to lunch, and I had to say, sorry, see ya, I gotta go. And I drove in my rusty Volkswagen to Brinkhaven in the pouring rain. I mean, it was like pouring rain. And I pulled in to the unknown place, and I opened up the door of my vehicle and looked out, and there was what I now know to be courtesy corps, and at the time were unidentifiable people in raincoats who shouted at me to move my car because I had parked in the wrong place. And I came very close to slamming the door and just driving back out the driveway because I was so unhappy to be there at that moment, just because it, you know, and I didn't know these people who yelled at me. And it was a rough start. Eventually I was happy to be there. And it was all good. But John Fark had recruited me, of course. I grew up as a 4-H member with John as my 4-H agent, but I was too busy, honestly. You know, the break never matched up. I didn't want to take the time off school. In college, I worked every break, or, you know, there was always those things, you know, you committed to. And so John had pestered me for a long time to go, and I put it aside until literally the day I graduated.
I remember when Christy came into my office one day, and she'd been fighting in her brain about what she was going to do for a career. We'd had several talks, and she came in one day and she sat down and she says, I know what I'm going to do. And I says, what? And she says, I'm going to be a 4-H agent. And I said, Christy, we need to talk. But she stuck to her guns, and here she is.
Well, like Jim said, I'm not sure any of us know initially. I was off to college at that point to be a nurse. And I suppose I could have been a nurse, I guess. But maybe after better thinking, you know, you figure out.
That's why I keep coming back. So maybe someday I'll figure out what I want to be when I grow up. If teaching doesn't pay, right?
Christy,
Someday.
you have delivered a lot of goats, so in some way you are a nurse.
Yes, maybe, but I got none of that training medically. You know, it was all on the job training, which so I don't know if that counts, honestly, but yes. Maybe my only qualification for being a nurse was lack of fear of blood and nastiness. I don't know.
The 4-H motto is learn by doing.
And the silly thing about that is that probably the reason that I switched gears was I had a very, very narrow, this is the lesson to you young people who are still choosing, or old people that are still choosing, I don't know. But I pictured a nurse being in a white uniform in a hospital. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do that. Where in reality, you know, you could do hundreds and hundreds of things, not in a white uniform. But I didn't know that at the time.
Well, I think with recruitment, there's like a waterfall effect, and Larry might not know this, but I think he's responsible for recruiting 6 people, at least, I'm sure more, but on the call that I know of through NEVA. So NEVA met Larry at National Camping 4-H Institute, and he told her to go to Buckeye in 2007. That was her first year. And 2008, she couldn't go and miraculously allowed me to go in her stead. And then Neva brought Toos with us the following year in 2009, I think was Toos's first year. And then since then, we've recruited obviously Krista from Camp Newego, Amber, who's a good friend of mine I met in Michigan, Michael, who's with baby Calvin, and basically anyone who comes from Michigan. And when I accepted the job offer at camp up in Michigan, I was really anxious because I didn't know anyone in this weird state shaped like a mitten. But I thought, well, if worst comes to worst, I have a lot of friends in Ohio and it's not a bad drive. I've already driven it from Florida. If I can drive it from Florida, I can drive it from Michigan. And I thought if this camp is horrible and Michigan is awful, I can always escape to Ohio. And I might be the only one in the state of Michigan who would ever use the phrase escape to Ohio. But it definitely made me feel a lot more comfortable about taking the job. So Larry, thank you for recruiting so many people. Look at what your efforts have brought.
I will also add, since I did Neva's interview, she said that Chuck was also a big influence in getting her here.
I think Christy warmed up pretty quick to Buckeye, though. This is a picture from that first year, dancing in the small space we had there.
Back it up a little, Jim.
And another one from the archives.
Oh my God.
We really did run 16, 20 hours a day there. I mean, people were exhausted by the time they went home. We were hoping they weren't going to be driving, most of them.
I'll never forget the guy that the rug wasn't finished hooking. This one kid stayed up all night and hooked the rug until it was done. And there was a big area that was left. We found him sleeping in the middle of it in the morning when we got up, but the rug was done.
Who was that? I remember that too. The rug was done and he was sound asleep with his face down on that rug.
I don't remember his name, but I remember the song, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Wasn't he Asian? Wasn't he a exchange student or something?
I don't remember.
Boy.
You know who would know?
Ding, 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 ding.
Dorothy would remember.
Yeah.
Just to show you the power of what happens there, Christy did a morning event And I think she borrowed it from something really kind of dry, like evaluation. And she had a whole box of stuff, and people would just pull a random object out of the box and say, Buckeye Leadership Workshop is like a combination lock, you know, and then they would go on and explain why. And because of that, I had to go home and then, you know, assemble, you know, a box that weighed like 30 pounds full of stuff just so I could do it too. You know, it's when Sam Sykes invented this one team building activity that used bowling balls, I wrote him and I said, Sam, doggone it, now I got to carry bowling balls with me everywhere I go. But Christy, you know, took this really dry concept. Do you remember that, Christy? Was that a morning excitement or something?
I think so, yeah. And I've used that activity many times, but you're right. What works best is kids toys, you know, little cars and all, because you can have hundreds of them in a shoebox. But yeah, it's a good metaphor activity.
It's Jim mentions things that you take from Buckeye and you use in different places. And one of the things, how's the story going to go? So probably because of Barry, and I know Barry, I've told him the story, because of Barry's one of his events with noodles, with the pool noodles that he did for, I don't know, one of the classes, a lot of the team building stuff, playing around with the noodles. I came home and with some of the programs I was doing, I had to purchase sets of noodles and cut them in half and use them here and use them there. And then outside of Buckeye, I started an organization called Unpub, which is for unpublished board games, which is something I've done on the side. I needed an icon. I needed something that was going to catch people's eyes. I had a blue pool noodle because of Buckeye. And so 10 years into that organization now, one of the most, its icon is a blue pool noodle. Because of Buckeye, I had noodles, and I used a noodle in a way that was completely not expected. And now there are board games out there that have blue noodle cards in them, or blue noodle pieces in them, or a blue noodle on the box in some cases because of, well, Barry. So I don't know, just a fun little story about taking things from Buckeye and reusing them in other places.
I even have an Unpub pool noodle playing piece somewhere.
Yeah. They're just a thing.
Yep. I see Bill's holding a Thunderbird. Does he have a story with those?
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah, this has been a tool that I used, gosh, over and over and over again. I ran across the first, I called it a Thunderbird. It was a Patika, I think, out at Black Hills back in I don't know, the 80s at least. And it was something that worked fairly well, and we started playing with it out there. And then I thought, well, that'd be something that I could make at home. And yeah, my granddaughter's got one. They're showing you. But it's a great way to pull a group together, because groups don't usually all show up at one time. And so you can walk them into a group, show them how to do it, give them the instructions, and you can start with 3 or 4 or 5 people. And as the groups grow, then you can divide the groups, and you can go with a whole room full of people. And I used to take at least a half dozen with me, so I could work with probably 60 kids with those, just to get you ready and ready for the rest of the program. And so it was just good. And we've done that for years and years. We use them down at the state gatherings in the spring, right after Buckeye. And I've used them all over the country. So this one, we were talking about, Jim's got a book that he said that he would be willing to sell. I will complete this Thunderbird if you would be interested, and and mail it to you if you want to put in a bid on it.
The committee sent some emails around today discussing this, and we are trying to figure out a way to make some sort of auction happen. We just haven't figured out yet how to do it.
Okay.
So
Well,
start building your items now. Is that what you're saying, Amber?
Yep.
Think of your ideas, what we could do if we can come up with a way to make it happen.
I will
I'm thinking
contest that those Thunderbirds are quite effective at
This
one of
one-
our NEA 4HAs or whatever it's called now, volunteer conference, something. We did a recruiting tool, and I think we had 25 people initially registered for some of the optional rotation stuff. And Bill was like, okay, come on, we're going to go out into the hallway and use these things and play in the hall and try to attract some more people. Well, it worked because we had about 300 in our tiny room for our Buckeye session.
And I had, learned a lot of team building from Bill and Barry and John and Carl Ronke. And they asked me to come down to the state fairgrounds for an FCCLA conference. And they said, we've never done this before with the breakouts, but we'd like you to do 2 one-hour sessions. And I said, well, how many do you anticipate? Oh, you may have 6 or you may have 20. I said, okay, fine. I can do 20. And 65 kids showed up. And so that was the first hour. So I split them into different groups. And I said, you start, I'll be back around. And from then on, I taught members how to be facilitators so they could handle that size group. But it came from Buckeye.
The summer that Christy and I worked at Camp Ohio, John Fark had a Foot Locker full of stuff he brought and would do staff training with it. And of course, trying to emulate the people you've learned such valuable things from, we went to, and I believe it was still a 5 and dime in this little town. And I bought a Foot Locker that summer so that I could be like my hero, John Fark. And there were puppets in there and metal coat hanger puzzles and wooden puzzles and just all kinds of things. And I still have it. And when Jerry Elliott passed, his wife gave me his kit of stuff. So I've got some of the things that Jerry Elliott used, which go back into the 30s and things, and just a joy. Does anybody remember where this came from? Was this something that Roland Russell brought? You know what this is?
It's a really big doorstop, right?
You put a ping pong ball on here and it rolls down and it'll drop through to the other side, and then you flip it over and it rolls back the other side. And I've never seen this anywhere else, but I got this at Buckeye and I don't know what to call it. We made these one year at Buckeye.
A ping pong ball roller. Ping pong ball roller. I don't know.
Do any of you recognize this? Everybody I've talked to doesn't seem to remember it, but I think Roland Russell brought the idea, and we made.
I can't see it. Where you're not up on the screen for me, but I could probably.
Oh, there we go. Well, that's nice.
Oh.
So it's about a yard long, and you put a ping pong ball on there, and there's just enough space that it will fall through before it gets to the end, and then you roll it back the other side. Oh well, mystery Buckeye.
It's like that electrical thing that goes apart where the spark goes up. What's that called? Somebody took that.
A Tesla ladder thing.
Jacob's ladder.
Jacob's ladder.
Jim, do you have a ping pong ball to try it?
Maybe.
I had a similar one that used a steel ball, and you had to try to get it turned over.
I was going to say one other thing on the Thunderbirds. One I have, we made at camps, and it uses 2 different size wheels in a spool. So you don't have to be as fancy as the one my dad made. You just glued them together with the vinyl on the bottom and foam. And so you don't really have to turn it.
Hey, Bill. Mystery.
Great to see you, Joanne.
Yeah, Joanne's good to see you.
Thank you. I don't know how to get on here.
You're on.
You're on.
I am. I was going to say the first time I went to Buckeye is when Leanne, my daughter, went to OSU freshman year, and she went and she came home, was all excited. And I think that was in 81 or 82. And so the next year, my son Kenneth and Leanne and I both went, and that was at Pilgrim Hills. And I remember the paths were dirt, and the inside of the rec hall, I guess you could call it, was so full of dust that I came home and had a sinus infection for 6 weeks.
Oh,
And
my
I
God.
said, I'm never going back. And then, of course, she went to another camp, and I did come back. And I really do miss it. I enjoyed it. I did use a lot of the things from Buckeye for church camp and 4-H and church-related activities. And I do appreciate all the work you folks have done to put this together. I did have a hard time, and Amber, thank you for helping me. I'm not computer smart.
I'm so glad you were able to get in. I felt so bad that I couldn't help last night.
Well, I gave up, and I did. My daughter lives in Taiwan, and she calls me every night. So she had just called me when you sent another email. I said, Leanne, please help me get onto this thing. And she did. So I'm thankful for that. So it was nice seeing everybody, and I remember all these tales that you talk about. So, well, I'm gonna bow out. Goodbye to everybody.
Good to see you, Joanne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Larry, what was your first year?
94.
The first full year that I was a 4-H agent was 1994, and it was our 50th anniversary of Buckeye. So I walked into the 50th anniversary, and I had heard about Buckeye from my predecessor and some of the kids that had gone on before. So it was one of those situations where I was not blown away in surprise. I was just, and like Tim says, I have found my people. And as I said in the interview, this was my recharge for the year after year. And the one year that I was in the hospital and couldn't teach at Buckeye, I got a 4-day pass from a nursing home that I was a patient in, and 2 of my kids from 4-H who had been to Buckeye took me over, and that was the last year that Vincent was at Buckeye. And so they wheeled me in a wheelchair. I looked like death warmed over, but at least I got to experience Buckeye for a few hours that year as well. So 20-some years. I'm still a newbie.
And the 2 kids that hauled you over ended up getting married.
True. And they both work with the National Guard as civilian contractors. And one, Andrew Seward, is the Ohio National Guard's youth director for Ohio military kids and other youth programming because of his training in 4-H and OMK and Buckeye.
Well, we're still on the topic of people's first years, or how they found us. Just one last plug to go check out the interviews tomorrow, because a lot of people did touch on those that couldn't make it tonight.
Did you want people to do interviews who neglected to do them?
Yes. So I will continue to keep doing them as long as people will be willing to sit on the other side of a Zoom call and do it. It takes as long as you want it to take. I think they range from 3.5, 4 minutes up to 22-ish minutes. Looking at Bill for that one. Great content there. So they're fairly informal. As you'll,
All right.
you can see one. I'm gonna post them here in a couple hours. Well, make them live at least.
Well, when is good for you, Ted? When are
I'm
you
fairly
on it?
flexible, so if you contact me with some time that you're open, I will try to make it work.
Okay, whenever school is not in session.
Or, you
Hey,
know,
Mary,
when school is in session.
don't feel so bad because I think I'm in the same boat as you. I forgot. I kept thinking, oh, I gotta let Ted know. I gotta do this. So I'm an also ran as well.
I thought you were going to call us, Ted. You didn't know we were supposed to contact you.
Feel
He
free to
sent out a
contact me.
blanket email, but you had to follow directions. And I don't follow directions.
Directions are too hard.
Why would a teacher do that?
Instructions are overrated. I mean, we always do everything differently anyway, so.
We like to wing things. Just do it on the whim.
But do we like to put the feather on the wing, on the bird and the wing thing?
There might be a hole in the wing on the log in the.
No, the feather goes in the Thunderbird.
After you pluck it off of the baby hippopotamus. And I don't know if Amanda intentionally left those edits in there, but that was great.
Definitely an instant classic.
I'll never forget when we recorded that right afterwards. Larry says, "Take two," and everybody roared.
True dat.
Yeah. It's like a 12-minute song on the CD, I think.
Yeah, I played it once for like my students, you know, in elementary education. I think I lost them all in like 30 seconds in. They're like, what? Oh, you gotta do it again? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is not for my kiddos.
So Mary, have you been keeping up with your juggling skills?
Yeah, they're still non-existent. Maybe I can do that. Maybe. That's about it. And the PE teacher, you know, because now with good old COVID, certain activities he has to come to my room. And he had scarves out the other day, and I had to leave laughing because I was like, Med, where is Ted? He's my scarf juggling buddy. So I don't know how they did, but that's all I've got.
Yeah, that was such a random class that turned out to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember in the Facebook groups after that year, people kept tagging me as somebody else that was like very successful and always had like 9 things in the air. I'm like, no, that was this other kid. I couldn't do more than 2. I could balance the ladder. That was fun, but juggling, nah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, Ted, because I was thinking there too, and I could never get it. I know Ruth and I tried to work it together. Remember, I think we're talking about the same time. And we managed, but boy, neither of us could do it by ourselves. And yeah, I ended up juggling a chair in for the show that we did at the end of the week.
Mary and I partner juggled scarves for the show.
I don't even know if we did or we just laughed the whole time.
Well, I didn't want to tell him that part.
Yeah, I may not have thrown anything. Oh well.
Witnesses.
One of my favorite classes I ever took was Jim's team building class. It was his like big return to Buckeye. This is maybe 9 years ago, maybe. And it was just kind of like as quick as you can, here's a billion team building activities, like go, go, go. And Ron was in the class with me. And one of the activities was this arrowhead puzzle where you put together 5 arrowheads, but one of them is negative space. And so Jim put us into small groups, and I'm with Ron, and I'm like, please, Ron, you're a rocket scientist. He had that thing figured out so quick. And Jim was like, okay, this group's done. And like brilliantly segued into like, and now go give hints to the other group. And so the rest of that class, Ron probably didn't even notice, but anytime Jim split us into groups, I miraculously found myself right next to Ron. So I thought, if I can be next to Ron, this dude's going to figure it out. And I want to be in his group for all of these team building challenges because it's very competitive. But thanks for being brilliant, Ron, and letting me steal your ideas.
Well, that's not the only experience we did. I remember building bridges or something like that in one of the activities, and I'm not sure if you tried to get in my group for that one. Probably true, but yeah, I remember a few like that. I'm just here thinking about this. If someone actually bombed us and found out, got on the Zoom call, what would they think? Just all the stories and all the stuff that we know, all the inside jokes about the bird tree and that kind of thing. Just thinking about that, if you didn't know what we're talking about, boy, you would be confused.
I know my husband's been listening from off camera to some of the stories and going, you guys, this is just so weird.
Yeah, I feel like any random people joining would just trigger a memory of something else.
Yeah, I told Jaleesa I just need to get him to come with me one time and then he would understand.
He does, like team building and professional board game stuff. This is right up his alley. But, you know, like we all know, it's the kind of thing when you try to describe what this experience is that we've all had, it's so intangible and bizarre and very culty, you know, as you explain it to anybody else. And so you just kind of have to like experience it and kind of like lean into it a little bit. And I'm always surprised that I'll bring people who are rather introverted and don't always love like communal living or like very intensive, immersive experiences, and they still really love Buckeye. So I think it's for almost everybody.
The 50th anniversary, we were allowed to bring guests to dinner and to the auction and stuff. And my parents came, and I think my dad would have stayed if we had let him. Because he's like, oh,
Yeah.
you just people
I
come
brought
there.
my mom on the 75th, and she says, I got to experience this thing that you're so excited about all this time. And what was really interesting, Jaleesa, you may remember, we were in the same Think Together group. And when we were going home, she says, now I know why you enjoy it so much. I enjoyed it, but it's not something I'm going to do again, but I really did have fun. And it was so neat to be able to have her be able to experience it. And it was even more special having the opportunity to see her in my own Think Together group at the same time. So
there was a young lady who was some type of counselor, social worker, who did not want to be touched, who came to Buckeye. She was in a team building session with Jim Keane and I, and she was a fantastic observer and could really pull out information if you like, but you know, she didn't like to hug or anything. In fact, one of her friends and I would stand on either side of her in the song circle, and we would hold hands but not touch her as we swayed back and forth. On the last day of Buckeye, she came up to me in the parking lot and gave me a big hug.
Mm-hmm.
My mom came with me 2 years ago and wants to come back. She had so much fun.
She was your babysitter.
Yes, and I was going to say, I think Calvin is the youngest workshop attendee ever at 7 weeks. I think he was the youngest one ever to go. So, you know, he'll be able to come when he's 16 and say, like, I think I've been here before.
And your mom just came, Amber, as a babysitter, basically, didn't she?
She did, but she wandered around and popped in people's workshops and came
tried
home.
to kick her out of things, but they didn't work. She stayed right there.
She just roamed around the whole place, dropping in on people's classes and think-togethers, and she had a great time. Now she wants to come back when she can actually experience it more.
Ted, a flashback to your juggling thing with those napkins. The last thing you should have had done in that class was have Craig Mullenkamp come in with his real bowling balls.
Yeah.
Because he can actually juggle real bowling balls.
I got to watch Craig and Al partner juggle. And that was what Craig was able to take out of the class, was being able to partner juggle with somebody and learn some different passing techniques, because he could already do everything that we were already doing in there, if not better than Al in some cases. But,
I have to tell on Craig Mullenkamp. We were at leadership camp, and he during the talent show, he told everybody, he said, I'm gonna try really hard to ride this unicycle. And he gets up on this unicycle, and I helped him, he says, okay, I'm gonna try just a little bit. And he rides a little bit, and he goes, Dave, throw me those balls, maybe that'll help. So I threw him 4 tennis balls, and he's riding a unicycle around, juggling 4 tennis balls around the rec hall at Camp Ohio. He said, yeah, that makes riding a unicycle way easier when you're juggling 4 tennis balls.
Who came up with the quilt idea for knocking down the sound reverberation in the dining hall?
I'm gonna guess Edie or Bill.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was Bill that I recall. I would have blamed it on him.
I remember talking about it at the early meetings when we said, we have to do something, and it just worked.
Oh, well, we've moved around, but Bill is still here.
Yeah. We decided I remember deciding to come to Rec Unlimited on committee before the lodge was even built. It wasn't even a building when we decided to move the workshop there.
Yeah, I got to go back to the juggling story, that kind of thing. He brought a roly-poly, where you put it on the tube and you go on top of it. And he tried to teach us how to do that, and we kept doing it. And of course, not succeeding. But talk about doing something different. Someone was talking to me about skiing, and all of a sudden, I just naturally did the thing right, because on a roly-poly, when you would not normally push down, you want to come up. And the same thing with skiing. You put weight on your lower ski to make it balance out. So it just turned out that, and there I was just talking, all of a sudden I realized I've been standing on the darn thing probably 5 minutes talking to someone and hadn't fallen off at all. Wasn't even thinking about it. Just was, my mind had gotten changed over to say, okay, I'm on skis now. Pretend you're on skis. And it worked.
It's amazing how certain oddball classes become just part of Buckeye culture, and how quickly we just, oh yeah, this is what we do. Yeah, we take juggling classes at Buckeye.
Calligraphy.
Or Sharon Schnitta.
Careful.
And some of the 4 to 5ers that, were just as impactful as a full session.
I was not on the Think Together subcommittee very often, thankfully, but I do. One of my really good memories was the year we did an opening where we posed as a Think Together group, and we arm twisted Dave Kalkbrenner into being the so-called Think Together leader, and we would come out on stage each morning, and we would have all these issues. We didn't want to sit next to each other. We didn't want to talk to each other. And he did a marvelous job of kind of explaining, how this Think Together thing was going to work. And day by day, we warmed up, and we decided we'd sit next to each other. The hardest part of it was I really realized I am never going to be an actress, because we couldn't stop from giggling. I could not, all of us, we knew the storyline that we were supposed to enact, but it was really hard to do without laughing at Dave in particular. And the other one I appreciated a lot was the kitchen table one that Bill Henderson helped greatly with, about things that happened around the kitchen table. I forget the exact title of that theme that year. But it was a cool opening effort.
Last night, we reminisced about Karen Saker's orientation speech about cell phones. And then hers went off and she said, "Whose is that?" And it was hers.
Unplanned.
The other thing I can picture Karen doing so well was that oversized Q-tip prop that she made. Does anybody remember that one?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Q-tip.
A photo of it came up last night, so look for that.
Yes, yeah, that was a classic, a classic Karen.
My first year is maybe one of my favorite Think Together openings, and it was Bill. I don't know if Bill remembers this part, but he was like a janitor character pushing a dust mop, coming out, sweeping up the dust we'd kicked up, doing song circle and the intro dancing and whatnot. And just his demeanor really set the tone for going into Think Together. And selfishly, I think my favorite one was being a man scout with Craig and Jordan. But I feel like we only had about 15 minutes to do Think Togethers those those years because our opening skits ran way too long.
I can remember Bill Alkire when he did the Warm Fuzzy story. I think he really cared that people would engage in that level. And he would say, holding a warm fuzzy is like taking hold of a little girl's hand. And it was just such a wonderful image, you know.
Well, we're talking about Think Togethers. Does everybody remember their first Think Together leaders for your first session?
I think mine was Mary and Larry in 2012. I know at least Mary was mine.
All intern.
Wow, that's a great one.
Mine was Dorotha.
With
Tish.
Paul. Tish, there you go.
Yeah, Tish Sampson.
Yeah, mine was Dave Zek and John Brokaw. Well,
That was a great year.
yeah.
I had Dave Kalkbrenner and Michael Danhoff.
Mine were Chuck and Tim Borton.
Can you name in this picture?
Give me a second. Hold on. Okay. Back it up a little bit.
Barry's hair.
Barry.
I think that's Susie in the front.
Tom McConaughey.
Tom, yeah.
Larry.
Wow.
Bob Kyle.
Christy's sister Julie is next to Bob Craig.
Yeah. That's what we were doing last night, was holding pictures up. So
My first Think Together was with Bill and Ruth. And my second and only other one that I've not been a leader for was Tim Reynolds and Karen Saker.
I think Denny Elliott was one of my first Think Togethers. But I can tell you, I know the first person who said hi to me when I stepped out of my vehicle at RU was Steve Arnold.
Yeah, he's the reason I got to Buckeye. Steve is. And it was like Jim's story. Like, it was when I was at Ohio State, it happened to fall during spring break. So I was like, okay, I can actually go this year. So, except for mine was in 2006. So not in the 80s.
Aw.
Barry Jolliffe was my first Think Together leader, and we made something every day.
Yes.
Which shouldn't surprise any of you that know Barry, but I remember making the little monkey ball things. We made something every day in Think Together.
Okay. John Fark and Neva were my first Think Togethers. And the only thing I really remember was the last session. And I'm sorry, John. We were in a circle, arms around each other, and we were supposed to be giving each other, positive compliments. And it was Isaac's turn. And John was trying really hard, but it didn't come out right. And he started with sometimes when I'm watching you sleep at night, I'm thinking, and there's a bit of a pause, and one of the other boys mumbled, well, that's kind of creepy. And Neva was next to me and she was laughing so hard I was holding her up. And that kind of ended that part of the session.
Oh, Dave, you were in my group that my first year, and that's when we did the everybody must get hugged on a morning moments.
Remember that one. Oncoming 3 years.
No.
I'm muted.
I remember when did you, Christy? When did you go yoga for us?
Oh, she did that I think in 2018.
It wasn't too long ago, but that's the one I remember.
17 maybe. I can't remember exactly. Something
No,
like
I was
that.
there in 17, so it had to have been 16 or 18.
Oh, must have been 18 then. I don't remember.
It was it was either 16 or 18 because I missed the one in between.
I remember Neva was really ticked at me because I didn't tell her. I said it had to be a secret. She missed it. She was mad.
She was mad.
Oh well, we'll do it again someday. It only works on a year where you have a plethora of baby goats, which you hope not to. So I was thinking last night that we should have had a trivia question on who could quote all the words from the bus stop skit.
Wow.
Bulbous Bouffant? Along the same lines as goat yoga, and I completely just lost my train of thought. Where did? Okay, maybe it'll come back.
Spatula.
Plethora.
Muck.
Hullabaloo.
Tuberculosis.
Beluga.
Gazebo.
I think I remember the first time I really saw Chuck. He did one of the morning moments, and I don't remember which book he read, but he read a children's book to us, and I was saying, "What's happening here? What the heck is this?" But it was a neat. I mean, he put it together, and he always was yeah, you know that he was always very thoughtful, and he had a lot of wisdom.
My thought came back with that note. One of the memories that I will never forget was actually at a committee retreat. This is how it ties into goat yoga. We were all tasked with teaching something to the group. And Christy Leeds taught us how to birth a baby goat. And Chuckworth was our mother goat.
Oh, I missed that.
Yes, birthing a like trash bag full of balloons or something. And that visual will never leave me.
And Bill in that same session taught how to properly wrap an extension cord so it doesn't get tangled. And that's also like burned into my brain. Like that session was so useful, like the each one teach one. What a simple concept. And then we did it that year, and everything in my Think Together group, someone showed us how to like perfectly fold a shirt because they had worked at Abercrombie and how to like fold. It was just great. I'm like, oh, what a useful thing. And what an easy program from a programmer to be like, everybody leave for 10 minutes, come back, and then you run your own show and I'll just sit back and watch the magic happen.
Yeah.
So have you taught goat yoga to anyone else? Since you said you're supposed to, you teach one. Who have you taught goat yoga to?
Oh, it wasn't a yoga session. This was a kidding session. This was a how to pull a goat when they're in distress.
Well, I'm sorry. That's what I meant. You know, that's what I really, I'm sorry. That's what I really meant. Have you taught that to someone else?
I don't know. Have I? Yes, many times. I don't know whether the rest of my fellow committee members have had the opportunity yet.
Well, if
I have
anyone
not,
needs to,
but
I've
I
not
feel-
had the option to teach people how to pull goats out of Chuck. So
But if I was ever in that position, I would think back to what did Christy say, and I would feel moderately more prepared than how I did before.
It'll work for any room in it. So you're in, you're prepared.
Brenda Malone came and taught us how to do this team building activity at Pilgrim Hills I had never seen before. It was called the bull ring, with a metal ring and some strings and a lampshade to dump the tennis ball into. And I'll bet I've made, at least 1,000 of those since, so I have this impression that when people are in an epic situation, they never realize it at the time. It's only when you look back, later, at some later date, you look back and say, that was so amazing, what we did there. And it was this little simple thing. And I took those to Mongolia, and they took me to a summer camp, and I gave one to the director, and she goes, great, now we can do a team building program. And I said, what kind of team building props do you have? She says, we have a soccer ball. And I said, what else do you have? She says, we have a soccer ball. That was it. And I gave her this program. Now they can offer team building in Eastern Mongolia. And it's just like, oh my God, you never know. People bring these heartfelt things that change the world. And that is such a simple thing. I will forever be grateful to Brenda, who brought her energy and her voice. Oh my God, lots of good things there.
one of my favorite things was a camp that didn't have a bull ring, but they used rubber bands with the strings on them and just adapting that to make that work. And there's a lot of things that you can do with the rubber band bull ring that you can't do with the regular bull ring.
Mhm.
The cup stacking.
Yeah.
Barry has a modified, yours please.
Oh.
Barry has a modified
full ring with a block on it that you can tilt different directions. It has hooks on the letters, and you pick up mouse traps and carry them. And it's kind of unique. It's of course they're set mouse traps. You have to pick them up without setting them off. But the blocks are old kids blocks that have the letters on them, so you have to tell people which letter you're going to use the hook from. It's kind of unique.
Was everybody able to share their first Think Together partners or leaders?
I can't remember when these are my first ones, but I remember having Amy and Ted together.
I also want to know everyone's first year. I'm just curious.
John Fark was my first Think Together leader. I remember him using a circle, and we drew out our 24-day cycle on it, or 24-hour cycle on it, what we did each day.
By a life.
Everybody could type their first year Buckeye in the chat, and we'll have it for a record.
I don't remember who my first Think Together leaders were, but I do know that my first year I was in the music class with Larry and the flying things with Dave and Barry and Rod, probably, maybe. And I ended up going to the hospital. Going to the hospital after laying on my, you know how we say to bring like a bath mat or something to put your feet on in the morning so your feet don't get cold when you get out of bed. I just grabbed mine and like laid it on the floor in one of the commons in whatever hall we were in and curled up because I refused to leave. But I thought I had appendicitis until Ruth drove me to the hospital. And then they came and brought all my stuff and visited me in the hospital and hung out. These, you know, random folks that I'd known for like a day and a half. And here we are.
My first time in Buckeye was in '93. And actually I was there with the group of Ruth Ann Musgrave. And I don't know if you remember me, I'm from Switzerland and I used to come back in '96. And I have been quite busy also with family and work and everything, but I'm still dreaming of coming back one day. And I think my children are now, the youngest is now 7 years old. So I guess maybe next year, maybe the next year after that, I'll be back again. So I'm looking forward to that. And my first class in team building in '93 was with Chuck and also with John. And I think my think together was Edith, but I'm not sure anymore. So there's so many things that actually happen all this time. So whatever, but I'm very glad that I also got the invitation and that I can actually join right now. It's about 2:30 a.m. and I need to go to bed later, but it is great that I can join this way. And thank you very much for having me.
How did you find Buckeye?
It was Ruth Ann. I was in Fostoria, and Ruth Ann Musgrave, that's the daughter of Dortha, who came every year with a couple of students. So I was part of one class, and that's the way I found it. I don't know, is Ruth Ann coming back sometimes, or is she not joining that much anymore?
She hasn't been back. Ruth Ann hasn't been back in several years, although she still, I would say, very much supports, and she's a retired extension educator now. So she, after she retired from teaching, she worked for extension as a family and consumer science educator for a few years, and is retiree, but I still get messages and things from her every once in a while. So she's still very much a supporter of BLW.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Tell her I said hi.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm curious, how did you in Switzerland, how did you get the invite here?
I still I was contacted once, and I'm still on the list, I think. So I'm getting, every year I'm getting the invitation, and every year I'm just checking out the classes, and every year I'm just choosing whatever class I would take, actually. But I can't, or I couldn't. So I am always Buckeye is always around my birthday, so I know exactly what is going on, and those things or thoughts about Buckeye is always my little personal birthday gift, because I just know that I'll be back one day.
Okay, so it's good they've kept an email contact with you.
Yes. So that's actually, it's the perfect. That's one positive aspect about COVID, I think, because otherwise I couldn't be participating tonight. So I enjoy that, at least.
That's an awesome story. That's really good.
Well,
I want to say another positive thing about tonight. I think it's been touched on a bit, was people getting to experience it that aren't going to be able to come, or may not be able to come, or haven't been there yet. Tonight, my wife got to experience Buckeye. I've been talking to her about it, well, probably since I've known her, and I know it's going to be a hard sell to get her to actually go, for a lot of different reasons. But having the opportunity tonight to have her sit here and see some of the fun that we were having and sing some of those songs along with us was really a great opportunity. And I think it'll help to maybe make it so she can come someday. So I know that maybe not be where we're talking about exactly right now, but I'm thankful for this opportunity tonight and getting to participate and getting to let her participate. So thank you all.
Has she seen you do food, John?
No, no, she never, so far as I know, and I think I've asked about it, I don't think she's been to summer camp in her life. So she didn't have that opportunity now, but she's heard stories.
This might be a good segue time for our other silver linings from COVID, if anybody's got some. Well, I've got one. Mine's similar in that just being virtual, it doesn't matter anymore if people are a quarter mile away, 10 miles away, or thousands of miles away. I've been able to play some virtual games with friends online that I'd kind of fallen out of contact with a little bit, but it doesn't matter how far away you are if we're separated by a screen either way. So being able to keep in some contact with people and learning that some virtual games are actually still pretty fun.
Hey, Ted, I'm coming in. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
My first year was like 94, and Larry was there, and a guy named John Minell. I always watched Larry dressed up as like a lady half the night and enjoying things that he did. As far as in Think Together, I was in quite a few of them. Hey, Dick, I just and also there and with Laser Disc, a program was developed for leadership and some of those things.
You broke up at the end there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, also, Dorotha was always trying to get me into Buckeye. You need more volume? I don't know, but I'm back better.
Still can't quite hear you. If you turn off your video, sometimes that'll let your audio come through stronger.
Or type it in the chat.
For those that can't hear John, I did get a great interview with him. Yes, we can hear you.
My first year I was like 90, and a guy named John Minell, and I always watched. Okay, it does work better to have it off, the video. Think Together, I was in quite a few of them with Bill Birds. I was thinking we did some of that work. Dorotha was always trying to get me into, I don't know, my volume back.
We're losing John again, but I will say his interview came out crystal clear. If you guys want to check that out when I get to post those live. What I could hear is that Dorotha was a big influence on getting him to Buckeye, and I'll share from his interview that Dorotha, at least he claims that Dorotha claimed to have held him when he was a baby before he even knew who she was. So Dorotha's always been a part of John's life. And I think a lot of his Think Togethers were with Bill, audio that I was getting.
One of the things I remember, a tradition that Dorotha, I don't know whether she started it. I think maybe she did, but she was the person who did it. She carved all of our names all of us that were at workshop that given year onto a gourd, as in like wood burnt the names onto a gourd each year. And it usually ended up in the auction, or sometimes ended up in the auction. I don't know where those have gotten to. Maybe Ruth Ann has them, but maybe some of you have one from some year, but it happened a number of years. She was involved in the Ohio Gourds Crafting Society, and so she did some of that as an art, and she every year made a gourd with all of us and all of our names engraved on it.
I have one of those, Christy.
My
There
mom's
has
got
to
one.
be a number of them around.
Do I
Here comes one.
When did the wall
here's-
hangings get started?
Oh,
Here's
there's
one.
one. Yep.
Can you back it up? Yep, there you go.
Was Buckeye Recreation Workshop 1986. There's my mom's name on it, so she was there. She's now 85. Bob Kyle, Marianne Alkire.
It's quite the artifact.
Paula Keller. There's some names I recognize. Jeff Gamble.
Paul Keller.
Dan Musgrave. There's Kelly, her daughter. Bo Odell.
Jeff Gamble has like 16 grandkids.
So then, are they just
Oh, that's
covered
correct.
in shellac? Or how?
I think she just waxed it. But yeah, some of the, so you see some of the other names on it here.
I remember during Buckeye committee meetings, people would often knit. Mary used to and at the end of 3 days, she'd have knitted a whole, whatever it was, a shawl, a scarf or whatever it was. But, so I started bringing stuff to do during meetings too. Like I started making Thunderbirds and things that Bill had taught me how to make, just because after 3 days, they'd go home with, the committee work done and then also a neat, craft item that they had made.
Edie has continued that tradition. She makes lots of dish rags and dishcloths constantly.
And I get my friendship bracelet stuff ready.
I have a question. When did the wall hanging start?
Say that again.
one
When did
was-
what start?
The wall hangings, the first one was
wall-
1975 or 76. We did a flag and we donated it to to Pilgrim Hills. All the rest of them are in Barry's barn. I was just there today, but 1975, 76 was the first year that I can remember. And there's some type of a hanging for every year since that.
Almost. I remember a puzzle.
Something you could hang. We did a picture like last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. For the 75th, it was just that picture that everybody colored.
Sarah, was it your mother that took the puzzle home to finish the giant, just dead white zone?
Yes. I remember that. That was something else.
That was the worst project ever.
And then there was the weaving, and Pam Trout had a bunch of pictures of all the different flags and matchhook rugs and weavings that have been done over the years, and she was going through them last night.
I have one of the weavings. I'd have to go look and see what year it was, but it was relatively recently.
I
Last
think
night
one
we
of
talked
my
about the
favorites is
lines.
the one that, Bill, that you crafted all those little wooden pieces that were eventually strung together. Strung is not quite the right word, but that's one of my favorites of all time. I think you and Edith worked on it.
I made all the little wood pieces and did all the stitching on it.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
But when you filled out your square, there were stamps that you could stamp an image on, or you could write on it or whatever. Once you got your name on it, why, then we put them together. It doesn't fold well, but it's still all together.
The one with all of the hands on it as leaves on a tree was brought up last night, and I learned for the first time that the colors mattered, and that all of the green hands that you see on that one are first years, and then there's different the age or how many times you've been to Buckeye for the other people made a registration. So that's cool. I've seen that one a lot, but I didn't know that fact.
We got to give a positive vibes to Karen Saker, who spent so many times scolding us about getting our names on something and our ribbons turned in or our whatever to make those things happen. She was quite the whip cracker on trying to get that kind of stuff collected and so that everybody got in on it. I give her credit for that.
Someone was talking about the different quilts and things that Edith has made, and she surprised me with this a couple years ago.
Oh, nice, Becky. Wow.
Hold on, spotlighting you.
Beautiful. Ah, yes, there it is.
It's all regards to Coast Guard.
It's beautiful.
She gave me a veteran's quilt this past year.
She was my secret friend one year, and I got a miniature quilt, kind of a 3x3 quilt that she made with dinosaurs on it. Very cool.
Sammy, do you know how many soldier quilts she's done?
I do not off the top of my head, actually. I know that I want to say it's over 1,000 at this point that she has personally made. And her goal, she always says, is to put a quilt in every veteran in Ohio's hands, but she always forgets the ones close to home. So I'm glad that some of you have gotten them. And if there are other veterans, reach out. She has them on hand all the time but for people she knows, she likes to put a special touch and do something that is unique to yours, and make sure that it represents the branch that they were in. But she, probably 2 years ago, she wrote a letter and got a grant to go and buy additional materials so that she can continue to do this as an outreach program.
And she's not kidding when she says that she has them on hand. If she sees that you have a veteran's license plate, she will chase you down for miles and try to flag you down to be like, okay, which branch were you in? Oh, I've got that specific quilt. Here you go. Thank you for your service.
She keeps a couple in her trunk, a couple in her husband's trunk, and a couple in my mom's trunk, depending on which car she's in and who's driving.
One of the blocks on the back here, I'll read it to you. It says, "This quilt has been made by loving and grateful hands to honor you for your dedication, service, and sacrifice for our country through the Ohio Quilts for Soldiers Project. May it provide warmth and comfort to you today and always."
I use mine when I donate platelets at the Red Cross.
One of the first years that I was on committee, I somehow got signed up to teach quilting with Edie and Mary Lib Brenner. And I don't think they meant it as an initiation, but in preparation for the workshop, we went to Mary Lib's house and sewed for the weekend, nonstop. I mean, I made a king size quilt, the one we were going to make at workshop for the weekend. If we slept for an hour or two, I don't remember it. We just sewed from Friday night until sometime on Sunday when I got in the car and drove home. And I felt like I knew those women really well as a result of that, and wondered what the heck I was doing there. I knew how to sew. I wasn't a quilter prior to that. I had sewn in 4-H and I knew how to run the sewing machine, but and run the sewing machine we did, by golly. That was back in the strip piecing days, you know, where you just kept cutting and you kept stripping, and by the end of the weekend you were done. So we did a lot of that at workshop for many years too. We sort of, I don't think intentionally, but the goal was to kind of get the project done. We rarely ever did because we tackled such a monumental project. You know, it was a full-size quilt that you were trying to make. That's what started the habit of a lot of the quilter folks going over and working during 4 to 5ers and before lunch and after lunch and whatever, because they were really trying to accomplish a lot of work. And it was fun to be in that corner anyway, so nobody minded.
I've come home from Buckeye with a lot of UFOs. For those of you who don't know, that's called unfinished objects.
Edie instituted a PhD program in our quilt club and so every project half done that you complete in a year, your name gets entered into a raffle to figure out who's going to be the honorary doctorate for our quilt group that year. As in trying to encourage people to get those UFOs done or those PhDs.
We actually talked at Buckeye for UFOs.
Well, I have one also, and I never was in Edie's class, but they made teddy bears one year. She made little bitty ones.
Oh yeah.
And so I went over there and started one of those. I think there's still one in the console of my car that never got finished.
I have to finish my.
Well, this could be, of course, by this hour, sort of a therapy session for unfinished projects. I will be the first to admit that I took that class one year that Ruth McClellan and maybe her sister, Marion, taught, I'm not sure. And it was about felting, and we made vests out of that felted, like we took these old sweaters that had been washed and then we cut them up in interesting shapes. Miriam is nodding. And we stitched them back together. I brought that project home unfinished, and I will admit, many years later, I threw it away. It was never going to happen. I know, sacrilege, but I
thought it was.
In one of those rare moments of cleaning out, I said, okay, it's just not ever going to happen.
I took a basketry class with Karen, and I had to miss one day for doing something with the group photo, and I think like spotlight teaching another class with somebody for a day. And in that day, apparently all of the magic happened in the upsetting phase, because otherwise I'm quite proficient as a placemat weaver, but getting it to turn and become a basket was not in my wheelhouse.
This is the puppet I made the first year in Susie Smithers' class.
What's its name?
I went downstairs in my John Fark team building trunk and pulled this out.
Do you know what year that was, Jim?
83.
And does the puppet have any?
I've got a Kermit the Frog puppet that looks an awful lot like that, Jim.
I think it was the basic pattern for most of the things we made that year, and then you just added, you know, but I mean, the hair was great. I had never done puppetry before, and she made it come alive. And we just had it was like the quilting class. We would just go in there and just, you know, and then it wasn't just making it, but then they would talk about how you present it and, you know, the voices, and it was magical the first year right off the
It
bat.
was.
One of the best team building classes involved making drums because it was definitely a group project.
Yes, yes.
Still is. If I remember, I've gone in and helped on assembly day a couple of times with that group.
Since this is being recorded, I decided to make sure this gets put in. Ted E. Bear needs to be in the picture.
No, that's just Teddy Bear. Ted E. Bear is Karen.
One of the
I have
forgotten
to
classes that it only happened once, which was a really good thing. But Paul Lintern and I one year got signed on to teach a tin making class. Paul, as it turned out, had some skill and quite a lot of tools, but he had inherited them from his father. And it turned out that Paul did not have the desire to follow his father's footsteps, and I had no skill whatsoever in tin making. We taught ourselves enough at Paul's house a couple of weekends to get through it, never to be done again, because neither of us had the skill or the tenacity to work tin. But it was a lot of fun to do with Paul. But it was much more challenging than what we imagined when we dreamed up the idea. Somewhere I still have the one tiny object, candle holder or something that we made as a result of all that effort. But and I have to wonder that if Paul didn't pass those, he had like hundreds of patterns and all of these specialized tools that he had inherited. My guess is he found a home for them.
He made a tin whistle. He called it a magic whistle because your fingers were the sides of it. And I took that to an Easter seal camp and made it with all the staff. And they took us to a baseball game. And everybody was blowing the whistles so much that they made an announcement over the speakers, would you guys quit blowing whistles at the baseball game?
I remember making one of those with Paul, and it was like, he said I had a wooden whistle and it wouldn't whistle. I had a steel whistle and it still wouldn't whistle. Now I have a tin whistle. Now I tin whistle.
We should work to get Paul back to Buckeye sometime. Some of my best memories of morning moments are his Sunday morning sermons, which often entailed, how do you describe when you rewrite you use the tune of a popular song and you write new words. Paul was a master at that, and would write new words to something and then sing it as part of his sermon or his message on Sunday mornings. We need to get him back. We need to corral him back to Buckeye again.
I think it was Paul and Brenda that honored Bill one time by doing a Circle of Song instead of Circle of Life, using parodied words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He did Preach It to the music from Beat It when we were at Pilgrim Hills. And I grabbed a leather jacket and a broom when I did the Eddie Van Halen guitar solo on that one while he was singing it. And I think he might have been dressed as Elvis, at least for one of those things. Didn't he have an Elvis outfit?
Yes, he did. He was dressed as Elvis. I remember that. I have pictures of that somewhere. I'll have to find them. But you were dressed with a broom.
I need to go to bed. I am very sorry. I wish you all a very good time, and I hope to see you again someday. I would love to. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Wow.
Ron, did you have a puppet that you held up there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this one was not by Susie, it was by Christy when I took her class. So this is my puppet that I made then. And when I saw the other one, I said, I have to go back and find it. So here it is. Hi there. Goodbye.
I wonder how many different countries have been represented at Buckeye over the years.
A lot.
A dozen, maybe more.
Probably at least, because we had the kids are from Japan the one year, and
Ireland, Japan, China, obviously Canada, Switzerland,
Spain
as we now
and-
know.
Spain and Africa.
The Philippines early on, that's in the history.
And Ireland.
Germany.
Yeah, Germany.
Apparently we had Haitians from Haiti.
Yakov lives in Israel now. I guess we could count that.
Does he really?
Yeah, Yakov Fleischman moved his whole family from Cleveland to Israel.
Wow.
That's why he hasn't been back in a few years.
But he's still running a camp near Erie, and they're all vaccinated. 90% of Israel is vaccinated now.
And then we've had probably just about every state represented. I know I have come to Buckeye from 5 different states.
No kidding.
And Guam.
Yeah. You know, Ohio, Alaska, Texas, Florida, and Vermont.
Do you remember the year that Barry's birthday fell during Buckeye and Amy brought all these Barry Goldwater buttons, political buttons that says, I like Barry or whatever? It was basically vote for Barry kind of things.
Today's his birthday.
but today was his birthday party. We went to his birthday party at 65th. His birthday's actually next Friday.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 26th.
It was his party. Yeah.
And he's really excited because he gets to call a square dance, the first one he's done in a year, next Saturday. And Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is coming to our fair, and we're going to try to set it up so we can get as many kids as possible to do Fishing in the Dark line dance while they're singing. So we're going to try to set up a world record for doing Fishing in the Dark.
How did that get started? That Fishing in the Dark thing where the kids get down on the floor and do that. Oh my Lord.
It's a great dance. It's fun.
Oh, those kids just, man, they hit the first note of that song at camp and every camper is out on the floor lined up.
Yep.
I was at Camp Ohio when Barry was doing a DJ and he saw that for the first time while he played that song.
At our fair last year, we didn't have a traditional fair, but we had a junior fair. And the night that our normal big square dance is in our Coliseum that has way too many people in it, even not during a global pandemic, we had a line dance outside, very social distance, taking up the entire big parking lot. And they did Fishing in the Dark was one of them. And there was probably 150 to 200 kids rolling around in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
I've got a video of it somewhere.
We should all send Barry a birthday card next week because he has not enjoyed being alone this past year, as he mentioned the other night. Talked to him a couple times. We should all send him a card next week.
Yeah, he really, really missed camps. And I mean, I've been over there a lot, but yeah, he was not doing well.
That's surprising. He's such an introvert.
Yeah. Yeah,
Guys,
I
you
was.
know, he's got this GoFundMe page for BLW.
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
he donated his, or he did the Facebook donation thing.
oh, okay.
Oh, for his birthday?
Mhm.
For his birthday.
Yep.
You're unmuted again.
Oh.
Yep, I guess. It's
It was great to see you all. I'm about to head to the barn. The goat trailer is about to pull back in the driveway from the sale, so I'm going to go help unload. So wonderful to see you all. Let's do this
See you.
again.
See you, Christy.
Hey, Christy.
Thank you for doing the trivia last night. That was awesome.
It was lots of fun. Lots of fun.
That was
See ya.
fun. Good night.
Good night.
That bumped us to the
That's
next
fine,
people
you
number.
too.
We all got a little bigger.
Hey, thanks, friends. Beautiful to see you all. Stay safe, and I'll look forward to the next time we're all together.
Take care, Jim.
So,
Yeah, I'm gonna go put the horses away and donate my platelets tomorrow. So everybody have a great evening.
Don't mix those two up.
hey, Ted, what time is the stuff tomorrow?
So it's kind of all day at your leisure. I set the Facebook invite up tonight and I sent it out, and I got a couple private messages in the chat like, did you mean to set that to 1500 hours? And I was like, well, it's from 12:15 a.m. to 11:45 p.m. just so it's all day. But I'm assuming most people will be active in the afternoon as far as the group chat goes. As soon as we hang up this call and I stop this recording, I will go ahead and put all of the interviews live, and then you can watch them whenever you want and do any kind of commenting and reacting. And hopefully more of this kind of favorite memories and experiences and whatnot.
Now tell us
Time
again,
does that start?
the interviews are going to be on YouTube, but the other stuff's on Facebook?
Yep. I'll post a link to the playlist that'll just continually play through them all. But you can also click around to watch your favorites or whatever. There is about 3 hours worth of the interview content.
Alrighty, well, thanks for the opportunity to chat for a while. So, gonna head out.
Good to see you, Bill.
Try to see if I can find you some tomorrow.
Before you go, Bill, OU won their game tonight.
Good.
Glad somebody did.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you for doing the song thing tonight. It was great. It was great to see you directing, even though it was a CD playing, but it was great to see you still directing.
Well, I hope it sounded better than it was on Amanda's and my end, because it was breaking up, and I hoped it ran smoother than that. So
Yeah, she messaged me a few times during it, and our end was good.
wonderful. All righty. Well, we'll see ya.
Take care, Bill.
See you, Bill.
See you, Bill.
Bill.
Phones are going to sign off as well. Take
I'm
care,
gonna crash.
everybody.
Yeah.
Bye, calls and fire.
Say hi to Estelle for me, John.
We'll do that, Beck.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Seems like that time.
Apparently. Mass
For-
exodus.
I guess. Well, my
Although this
children-
seems to be most of our late night crew from last night.
Maybe I'll hop on my phone and go screech at my children upstairs.
You have
I
to
mean,
use the Mickey Mouse voice. Those are the rules.
Those are the rules. Go to bed! Mommy's gonna say bad words! Oh boy!
I didn't want to say it in front of her, but Christy was the one who got me to Buckeye, and my mom, but mostly Christy. But I was at camp, like she was my camp director for 4-H camp, like through high school, and she said, if you go to Buckeye, I'll give you hours towards the summer season or your week. So, like, okay. So
Sucked you in. Muahaha.
Slight bribery.
She knows what she's doing.
Jenny, did you ever work at the farm?
No, I didn't. I wanted to, and the one summer or one season I considered it, I had surgery like right before the season started, and it just wouldn't have been
Yeah, that's not a
good
good.
for me to work.
I don't think I want a pumpkin bounce or whatever that thing's called after post-op
Exactly.
or zip line. Maybe a corn maze.
I don't know what she calls it, but I'm trying to get my mom to come back
Yeah,
and go
for sure.
to Buckeye. So
I don't remember what year it was, but we did a committee retreat at Christie's, and Isaac was there and was like, "We're gonna turn the pumpkin jump on, but I know how to turn it up past 11." So he turned it up past their its normal, like what they're allowed to run it on when it's open to the public, and getting kind of double bounced by Joe Richards, like almost sent me to the moon, I think.
Yeah, I
Isaac
think the
would
girls
know.
were all smart enough to stay off of it while you
Yeah.
all were.
Yep.
Yeah.
You did laugh at us.
We
as
did,
we
pretty
came
hard.
back, like limping and okay. Here's
But
Tyler Hart.
the pedal go-karts are my favorite thing there.
They're so fun.
I want one of those for Cantor's Cave. You could ride it after that.
Yes.
I have to have oxygen when I get to the rec hall, but
Melissa, I don't know if we heard your first year at Buckeye.
It was, I did put it in the chat. It was 93, my senior year of high school. It was before my chosen 4-H trip for the year. And the best of the 4-H trips I ever did.
It's the one that keeps going.
It is, even after my 10-year hiatus. I came back after, was really struggling at work, and one day on my iPod, a song from Good News came up, and I'm like, I should go back. And I did. And I haven't left since.
Awesome. That's a really cool way to reconnect. So did you find us through 4-H, or was there someone in particular?
Yeah, it was you filled out your little application for which trips you'd like to take, and it was either one or two that year on my list, because I never did the Washington trip, but I did do Buckeye, and I'm so glad, because it's one that you can keep doing year after year, and when you hit 18 age out of 4-H, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
That's how I got hooked up with Larry. He was my chaperone for Citizenship Washington Focus, and then he just tucked me right up under his little wing and just took me around to the places and things, and
Yeah,
the rest.
the wing and the wing and the Larry down there.
Yep, that's how it went.
I'm on state leadership camp staff, and all these kids they go, oh, this is the last year for 4-H. There's no more camps. There's nothing else I can do. Boo, boo, boo. I said, no, I'm still going to camp, and I'm 62 years old. But you can go to Buckeye. I said you can go to Buckeye until you're 90 if you want. But so they're all trying to get excited about Buckeye.
Sarah, how long has it been since your sister's come?
I asked her that last night. It's been 12 years. It was on her calendar to come this year.
Well, great.
Right. Yes.
So hopefully it'll be on our calendar for next year.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how long has it been since your mom's been? Less than that, but
it's been, yeah.
The year of the puzzle was her last year.
Was it?
Yeah.
So the puzzle drove her away.
The puzzle was like, nope, we're not doing this again.
We're done.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that was, though.
I think that was the spark.
I think it was Only Takes a Spark, so I want to say that was 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was my first year.
Huh. All right.
So whatever that math comes out to be.
8 years. 9
8,
years.
9, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the year I came like a week and a half after major surgery. It was like, I was pretty, every once in a while, Ruth would come up and say, Dave, it's time for you to go to bed.
How does anyone know how Ruth found us? Or we found Ruth?
I'm pretty sure through Paul Intern, but I'm not positive. I know they're friends.
Everyone always asks if Melissa and Ruth are related.
Yeah. And we haven't come up with any relation yet, because her husband's family from a different part of the state than my family, so.
Just make one up.
There we go.
You make an
Well, I mean,
elaborate story.
it is part of the Buckeye family, so.
Yeah. We're Buckeye cousins.
Well, they're also in the quilting family.
Yep.
Well, let's see. There's only a few of us left, but I think I can probably make the magic happen. I still have it pulled up, so I don't have to minimize the Zoom, but I think that I can go ahead and set all of the interviews to public. So if people are looking to do something,
There she is.
Still.
So Dave, this is going to be your night to put the pictures up to the camera.
This week I found like 2 videos of like 2012 and 2013 slideshows on YouTube.
Yeah, that was a Buckeye account that I made in college.
Okay.
To share those, and it like completely locked me out. So this one's much more official and has ways to get in if we lose email access. But yeah, there is a secondary Buckeye account with a slideshow from 2012 and 2013.
How do I find that?
If you just search Buckeye Leadership Workshop, it's on there. And that was one that I ran into copyright infringement because I used Buckeye audio, and I think I used The Lion Sleeps Tonight for one of them. And I had to like dispute the claim and be like, no, it was us. And they were fine with it at that point, but I don't know if I would try to re-upload it.
Chance of getting sued was only a whim away.
Yeah. Fortunately, that email seems to be gone, so they can't even contact me if they needed to.
I do see interviews.
Appearing?
Yep. Oh, and now I'm seeing, okay, I see, I found the slideshows too. Okay.
And that should be live for.
And they're coming up, so.
I think that's all of them. I get to feel like a mother hen sending all of her chicks out into the world.
Right. There are lots of different videos from back in the day.
Are there?
Yeah, there's one that is.
Oh yeah, I saw somebody else has an account and they just posted like a 30-45 second video of like a jam session.
Yeah, I saw the jam session. Here's one that's Tininkling, or however you pronounce that, at
Tininkling.
Buckeye Leadership Workshop of 2009.
Inkling?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, stick dancing.
Yeah.
Polynesian stick dancing. I remember one of the girls, Hogan from Canada, was really good at it.
Mm.
Her and Craig Mullenkamp.
Yeah.
We
I was
used to
like, I was
have them at
happy to do the
school
feet.
and we could take them out at recess and smash everybody's ankles, but
Right.
Love that.
But yeah, I'm not sure who the owner of those videos is. But yeah, all of the interviews are up and people can talk about them whenever they find them in the morning.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Oh, it was actually great. Getting to talk to people that I've not seen in a long time was awesome.
And even people you have seen.
That's true.
Those weren't as much fun though, Dave.
Well,
I really don't get to see him as much as I used to.
Yeah. Global pandemics suck.
Yeah. At some point, I need to do my own interview, but I'll get that done.
And flip back and forth, like
Yep.
interview yourself.
That was kind of my plan for that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
If you notice in any of those interviews though, I'm not actually in them. You just hear me.
Right.
You should leave it unedited though. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah. So I think what I have to do is ask all of the questions in one outfit and then sit on one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Switch it back and forth.
Yeah, I know
Hair up,
Stephen
hair down.
Colbert, Stephen Colbert does stuff like that all the time where he does, yeah.
I also got a lot of interesting responses from people back that were, oh, this is great that you're doing it and it's awesome. And then I'd email them like, does that mean you wanted to do it? Are you willing to do this? And then I'd get nothing.
Yeah.
Just thanks for the email that was in favor of doing interviews.
It's cool, but please don't ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome that you're doing it, but don't bother asking me.
yeah. Well, then there was Joanne's nice letter and email.
Yeah, Joanne Ironman did email me to tell me that she wrote me a letter, which was great.
Love it.
Yeah, I got 3 narrated ones. Jenny Morlock and and Owen Herbst was the other one.
Okay. How did you decide to do those?
Well, you can look, but
I can. That's true.
I did have 3 lovely volunteers to read them, and we did them question by question. They're the 3 shortest ones, but when you don't have to think about what you're saying, it's not so bad.
True.
You chose 3 fast talking ones.
Sammy from the other room says, I also chose 3 fast talking women.
I mean, I like that answer.
Yeah. But there's some really cool stories that come out in those. And some that I knew, but kind of had forgotten. Yeah, oh, this is something for the people that are watching this one. This came up in the pre-talking about it with Edie. The only Buckeye she's missed since she first was able to attend was one night or 2 nights maybe. She left Buckeye to go speak at the Smithsonian for some national quilting award.
Yeah, when she was president of the National Quilting Association, they did an exhibit at the Smithsonian, and she had to go make the dedication speech, and so she had to leave Buckeye for the night.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
I was gonna say, I think that's a fair.
Yeah.
Good reason.
Yeah. In 45 years, she's missed an evening program.
You're excused.
Did she tell him the wooden Indian story?
Maybe they still don't know.
So I just found out this week.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm changing the subject.
You're fine.
I found out this week that the Smithsonian will have a quilt exhibit opening in the summer of 2024. It'll be the largest Amish quilt exhibit in any museum in the world.
Looks like I'm gonna have to figure out how to get 12 elderly women and myself to go do that.
Yes.
Road trip.
Realistically, is it like, if you can include like 4 quilts, is it the largest Amish quilt thing in a museum?
No, because the Shipshawana quilts
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Is that
almost
sizable?
entirely Amish quilts.
Okay.
They have a show that you can enter, but yeah, that is an insanely large museum.
Yeah, Shipshawana books all the hotels in Fort Wayne and South Bend, and within an hour of Shipshawana. It was an amazing show. Went a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that's cool.
For us non-quilters, what or where is Shipshawana?
Shipshawana is kind of between Fort Wayne and South Bend, so it's relatively close to your neck of the woods.
If we get on the turnpike and just go to Indiana, pretty much as soon as you get to Indiana, you're in Shipshawana.
Yeah, it's like an hour from you.
Yeah, we live right up at so it's just under, I think.
I was in that area last week, camping at a local camp. Didn't stop in Shipshawana, but was right there.
It's really interesting to go in some of their quilt shops that they have down there, because they will often have card readers. They'll have electricity run for that because they know that tourists are going to want to pay with a card and not always have cash. So a lot of the Amish stores will have permission to have that, but there's no other electricity in the buildings. So seeing all of the like skylights that they've implemented in the shops to make sure that you have bright light to actually look at the quilts and things.
And they'll let you carry the bolts outside so you can see it. And
oh, really?
The new store has electric. They have their own generator, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know how many quilts are in this large Amish quilt show, because we've got the Mennonite relief sale that every year could probably run a good second.
Let me, I have the article that was written about it. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, somebody sent me the link, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Oh, it was an email. Because so Harmony and I do Smithsonian summer camp every year, and for a couple of years we've talked about doing a quilt camp, and the camp director doesn't think she can sell it. And we keep saying, yes, you can. It's a resurging craft. Like, people want to learn how to do it. People want their kids to learn. So now with this article talking about it, she's like, I think we can talk her into it now. So it'll be the largest exhibit, and they are like, it was a couple who owns all of the quilts, and they're donating all of them to the Smithsonian. So let me see if I can find. I'm not seeing the number. It says an initial group of approximately 40 quilts will be featured in an exhibition organized by the museum, scheduled for March 15th, 2024 through September of 2024. And then, but the entire collection is approximately 130 quilts, which will be donated to the Smithsonian American Art Museum.
Edith has that one in the trunk of her car.
Right.
I've seen her quilting room, and I'm at some point I want to build her new shelves because I'm concerned.
Yeah, my grandfather originally built them when they got the house in '66. And he was not a handyman.
Yeah, if you look at it, I'm like, Edie, one day we're gonna get a call that you're just buried under bolts of fabric because there was a fabric avalanche.
You need to do one just like the one behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could probably park a car on our board game shelf. Although,
oh, I'm
it-
sorry, I kicked his knee.
it does have some casualties involved in it. We had a cheaper set of drill bits when we first started the project, and there's about 6 in it that are broken off.
That will never come out.
But those holes fill the same, so it's fine.
Yeah, she's a hefty gal. He's like, this is gonna stay in the house because I never want to carry it out and put it anywhere else.
Yeah. Although I've grown quite fond of it, so I might change my mind. And then eventually we'll still be able to put finish on it. But, you know.
He built it the week of Thanksgiving, when I was gonna have like 35 people in my house the 2 days later. And I was freaking out because he was like sanding it in this room that we used as the dining room that day. And I was like,
One of the dining rooms.
yeah. Well, when you have 30 people, my house is not big enough to all eat in one room comfortably. Can only fit about 24 in here with no other furniture.
Yeah. But yeah, we got it done. And
Except for, varnishing.
well, yeah, and stain.
And finishing.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's just natural.
Right.
I was gonna say it doesn't look bad.
No, looks good.
The end, the side you don't see is not great. Not as great.
Yeah. The side you don't see is the fact that we got kitten.
Yeah, the urethane will also help the fact that there's scratching postmarks
Mm-hmm.
from about 2 feet down. You jerk. Time to sand and fill.
It adds character.
It's true.
My cat's also a scratcher. Give up. It's that you're never gonna get it back to.
Yeah.
Our cats can scratch all day. Nothing's going to happen. We've got 2. They weren't ours to start with. And when we got them, they came with no front claws.
Our
They
two adult
don't-
cats have no front claws.
Yeah. The one cat does not know he has no front claws. So he's constantly doing
Yeah.
it's like he's just polishing.
We have one of those that scratches the scratching post, and I'm just like, what do you think you're doing?
Well, they do have scent glands in their feet,
Yeah.
partially marking territory.
I
Shadow
had
will
the-
never win that territory dispute.
I had to get a new recliner last summer, and Lazy Boy was offering a warranty where if a pet causes damage within a year, they'll upholster it if you buy this warranty program. And so I, of course, signed up for it and came home. And my brother said, that's not really a good insurance program because Bandit's just going to see that as a challenge.
See, Artemis is back.
Yes, she's drinking my water currently.
Mom water is the best water, according to our cat too.
Yep. At least she's not gonna stop an evening program tonight.
Did that
But
happen?
on the bright side, it's a lovely, memorable experience.
It is. It is. I was facilitating one of the escape rooms the other night, and she just came in and marched across my keyboard, and somehow like it made my PowerPoint like just keep advancing slides, and I couldn't make it stop. So I finally had to shut PowerPoint down completely and restart it. And they claim that that's the reason they didn't make it. It's not.
Sarah knows the truth.
Well, ours was really close and we had like 12 seconds left and they were like, oh, what's that? And I thought that they were going to tell me to click on it. So I clicked on it because they're like describing what it looks like. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, click on that. Click. And they're like, oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sorry. They're like, I feel like it has something to do with that shield that's got the horse on it. And I wonder if it's something to like with the book, because the book matches the shield. And I'm just like, click on it.
Yeah.
Just click on it a little bit.
I wonder if you could do this as a rainy day activity. The camp with a big screen and one computer.
You could do it with a projector, yeah.
Yeah.
If you also had good audio, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I could hook it into the sound system.
Yeah. It was like 3 rooms later that they figured out the crow and the swords clinking and the knocking were relevant. Like we re-pulled up the inventory and they're like, oh, the noises we were hearing. Those were the order. We just looked at the edges of the paper and tried to figure it out and happened to get it right.
That's how we did it too.
My group figured the sounds out, but they couldn't figure out where it started. So they kept starting the order in the wrong place.
That's when we just looked at the paper. When Sammy did it for our game group. And we had big technical difficulties in that there was like 8 pixels on the screen total.
For the letters and stuff.
So we're like, she's like, why aren't you guys figuring this out? Are there words on the screen? Yeah. Oh, well, what does that say? Because we see like cartoon little kid handwriting at best.
Yeah, Heather's
written in the language that the adults in Charlie Brown speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So I will say both times I ran it, no one noticed the clue to uncork the bottle on the table that it's written across the top border of the wall.
Oh,
now,
that was the first thing we saw.
Like, the cork? Does that bottle open? Does that bottle open? As soon as you get in the room, and I'm like, yes, the bottle opens.
Yeah.
Because when Sarah and and Ashley were like testing it, I was like, oh, it says uncork. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, guess no one else notices that. I'm just weird.
Oh, we're like, that was the first thing we did in the room. We're like, well, that thing's a different color. Because since our resolution was down, the things that we could likely click on showed up a little bit better.
That's funny.
Click that vase.
Yeah.
Gas. Uh-oh. Unclick the vase. Stop. And then I thought we were dead. And then that room took us the longest because we had it set so it just toggles to whoever's talking on your screen. And for the ones that like I had to mute myself and do an action, so nobody was ever seeing me. And one person was like, long live the king, or somebody's like the king and somebody else was long live. So we had someone just saying long live because the king only did the king like one time. So we heard a long live out loud and then nothing else at all. And oh man, Sammy was like, well, Ted seems to be doing something weird. And I was the fist bump guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that my arm was going to break off.
Right. My group did not get that whole activity at all. I finally was like, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah. That one was the toughest. Although Sammy did skip our read the incantation backwards to turn the lights back on.
Right.
I made them read, but
not
figuring
backwards.
out that because you went back in time, everything you do is supposed to be in reverse.
Yeah, that part nobody got.
Yeah. We didn't get it when we did it.
Right.
And neither group I let it for got it. from what Amber
Well,
was
we write
saying,
it the
no
first
one
time and
gets
it turns the lights off, and then the second time it's supposed to turn them back on.
Yeah.
You read it backwards. That makes sense, but
It does once you know.
well, yeah, that, and we never really looked at our inventory because you barely use things from previous rooms.
Yeah, except for the book.
Right.
You put it on the pedestal.
Okay.
Oh, you get it in that room, I thought.
No,
Oh, okay.
the book comes out of the throne with the sheet of black paper.
Shows you how much I know.
Yeah.
So long, farewell. I'll be saying good night.
Adieu. Adieu. To you.
All right. See you guys later.
Good night.
Good night. I was like, he left. How do I still film? I'm stupid.
Right.
And now we have Sith Lord Ashley.
My favorite Ashley.
Don't you kids know it's bedtime?
Yes.
We were still looking at pictures for another hour last night. And my computer today reminded me. It's like, I can't render this video.
Yeah, it was still working on it when we woke up today. Well, I should say it was still working on it when Ted woke up today.
It was still working on it this afternoon because he was texting me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not great.
When he woke up today.
I will say that tonight's might be more iffy at the beginning because I was able to do it, but then the other video that it was rendering my edit of Wednesday night's just the program part, and it finished right as our call finally went up. So I recorded the Zoom and that was fine, but then it tried to play that video and then my computer was like, I can't render and record everything. And then it locked me out of Zoom, and then I was able to close the video, got back in the Zoom call. So I missed part of it, and I don't know how good my first recording for the intro is, but we'll see.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever's there is better than nothing.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel so lucky to have all this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I know Amanda said that we're going to post tonight's.
Right.
But I don't know what all we're going to be able to do. So
Yeah.
I know that we have verbal consent for at least my dungarees.
Well, we did have to have written for the recordings of the CDs, but
That's
I
only
don't
for
think
certain
that it
songs.
extends.
Yeah, it's only
Have
for
to
certain
have.
songs. And yeah,
Right.
that's what I ran into of like, we had the rights to record it once and produce X amount of copies of something. It doesn't get to go into a virtual space, but yeah, so we'll see what we can include. I'm at least going to put up a thing with just the interludes and some of them, like the mistake ones. And I think my dungarees were good because Terry Lieberstein said that we're good forever for that.
Right.
That's the kind of copyright you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harder to come by for some of the songs though.
Oh yeah.
Some of it gets gray area too if you're doing it like not for money and you're doing a cover versus if you're like selling
Like their
it or doing it
actual-
like a professional thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But YouTube specifically is tough.
Cracking down.
Well, it's also automated.
Well,
So
yeah.
it'll actually, like, a computer listens to it. And if you even hum very accurately, it'll pick up on that and flag your content.
No kidding.
It's more of an issue if your content is monetized.
Mm.
But yeah, so yeah, the algorithm listens to stuff, flags things, and then goes to a manual review process.
To be lost forever.
No, that's actually a pretty good system. They've got a lot of employees, but it's also a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah. Well, our church does live stream on YouTube now. Our little tiny church. And we are always having to pay attention to what music that we put on. We have a license, so we know everything that's in our hymnals good to go. And there's a lot of other stuff. If you've got the license, it's fine, but you got to make sure every time.
Yeah.
before we put it out there.
And it's hard too, because a lot of those, the song might not be copyrighted because it is old enough to be public domain, but the arrangement is copyrighted and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, especially with an algorithm that's listening to it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this sounds a lot like this song.
Yeah. Well, and then of course there was our Christmas Eve calliope.
It was terrifying.
It was
the creepiest.
A little bit of a horror setting.
Somehow there's like the audio's from one source. It's not like a bunch of people online singing, but it got out of sync with itself.
Ooh.
Specifically
Somehow.
the organ.
It was Jen knew the organist knew. She told him, because the way you have it set up to video, it's not going to work. Yeah, well, she goes, no. He goes, just do it. So she played, and in church it sounded fine. And I went home and we were watching it, and we were just laughing because it literally sounded like a bad calliope playing haunted calliope playing Christmas Eve music.
Yeah.
And so then, by Sunday, Jen is like, I told you. And she redid plugs and things, and it's been fine ever since. But
That's
it's like, and that was our debut video. So, well, if they come back.
I bet it matches a lot of other people's debut videos too.
Yeah. Oh. Well, it didn't help that the church had been robbed right before Easter last year. And we're rebuilding all the sound stuff, and not all the pieces had arrived by Christmas Eve.
Yeah, with all of the crazy back order on technology because people just mass ordered as soon as the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
Get anything.
Here, I will attempt to play a snippet of what we're talking about.
You could screen share it with audio from YouTube.
It's not on YouTube.
Oh,
This is
you record. It.
Why is this so quiet?
It's so quiet. I don't know. I'm struggling to hear it, and I know I'm pretty deaf. But your computer Zoom is going to be like, that's background noise. Let's tune it out.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If you want for fun, go to Oak Chapel United Methodist Church and check the
I thought it
Christmas
was still on there.
rendition.
Well,
right,
unless anybody else has got some final words of wisdom from the Buckeye world, I might end us here.
Yes. Good seeing you
yeah,
all.
I gotta go.
Yep.
We should have just some sing-ins every once in a while, randomly during the year. We're gonna sing.
Truly, I agree. I think that this week has shown that we could do a lot, even if it's like 'twas the night before Buckeye or like a pre-holiday season, just hello, something. Because the people who can't come, the one from Switzerland, that one, my heart, oh
Yeah.
Yes.
and I know the year that I had Sawyer, it broke my soul. And I'm like, can't I just like stick him in a closet for a minute and come anyway? And Dave's like, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm serious.
Well, our cats have an
I cannot
automatic
tell you
feeder,
how
so you
mad
can
I
probably
was
figure
when there were
something out.
2 babies. And I was like, I asked for that. And no, I think that we should include something in the future that is just a little, maybe a one night thing that we include
a touch base
normally, that we can reach out to the people who aren't coming but still want to keep connected with Buckeye. This was a great week of stuff.
Yep.
Wow. I'm headed to bed. It was lovely chatting with you all.
Good night, everyone.
Yep, me too.
Night,
I'm
my
out.
darling friend.
Later.
Hey, I just got back.
Sis
Well,
Sabina as well.
What's that?
I'm also in the dark.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just got back from Bowling Green State University, so
Yeah. How are the volleyball games?
I got my first Division I women's under my belt now. And I just about took it personally when they did a challenge review on my very first call, but the down official said that he had to review that 3 of the 5 different angles, and he had to slow it down 4 times in order to be able to see that was just the compression amount of the ball that hit the floor.
Oh, wow.
And he said, don't take it personally. He said the coach was a jerk. He got yellow carded last night. That coach got yellow carded last night. So
Interesting. Well, congratulations.
well, and I got a phone call afterwards, and one of my fellow line judges, he goes, I saw you on ESPN3. You did fine. He said I about had to pull over at the rest area and use the little girl's room on the way up there. I was so nervous,
Gotcha.
but I didn't. So how things go?
Say that again.
How things go?
I think they went pretty well.
Really well.
I'm still recording, but I think we'll put some of it up in the future as much as we legally can.
Mm-hmm.
But it went well. We had, I think I saw 51 at our peak. So,
No, 54.
I'm not sure how many others signed in and signed out. But
Because they said it was over 60 because of the double people in the room.
oh yeah. Actually, I think 57.
57
was the peak.
number.
Yep.
Yep.
But I think we had a couple others that popped in and popped out for a little bit, and some that came for the beginning and couldn't stay.
Okay.
So we had a good crowd. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. Yeah. While you're here, I'll let you know I did post all of the alumni interviews on our YouTube page. If you've got time to go check those out.
Okay.
They're all live. And we will be having our kind of discussion and more memories and recap on our YouTube group.
YouTube group or Facebook group?
Facebook group.
Are you eating ice cream?
Eating tomato soup.
Tomato soup.
Very good.
Ah.
Ice cream sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really does. But I'd be on a sugar buzz and I would never go to sleep.
Yeah.
Dave, guess who texted me last night?
Tom McConaughey, because I told him to.
Yes.
And he said he'll send you a link to his, he said he's done like 40 30-minute recordings. He said he'll send you links to them.
Yeah, he sent it via email. He sent it to both you and I think.
It's awesome.
So I told him I needed to get today's busy schedule done with, and then I can be able to get, but I think we texted probably back and forth, maybe 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
But it's like, your blast from the past and everything. And I'm like, realize it's been 95,000 years since I've been to Buckeye.
The cool thing about people from Buckeye is you can not talk to them for 10 years and come back together and it's like you never left,
Yeah.
Yes.
That comes up a lot in people's interviews.
Does it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Because yes, people change and they're just not as recognizable as what, you used to be.
That's
Trust
true.
me, when Pam was putting up the pictures the other night, I'm like, okay, I don't remember that person looking like that. But you pick up your conversations right where you left off. Because Buckeye people are just Buckeye people. And nobody will ever understand. Because there's not words to be able to explain even though I had the contract to go to BG and it's a once in a lifetime experience and stepping out there, I wanted to come back and be on the. It's almost 11 o'clock and I'm just now signing in.
It's okay. Yeah, since we started at 7, it's cool that we're still here.
How long did you guys go last night?
11:30,
Oh, wow.
11:45-ish. Yeah, Pam's got a lot of photos,
Oh,
Yeah,
and we didn't even get to all of them.
we barely touched her stacks.
Yeah,
She said she had a 12 by 12 tote and each year has its own envelope.
well, that's not just for Buckeye, that's for everything. She's a scrapbooker.
Oh, that's not, I understood it was just Buckeye.
Nope.
I
Doesn't
have
have that many photos.
I still have thousands of pictures in my archives that because I taught photography there for years and years, so
Yeah,
and it was kind of cool.
I don't know if I still have it or not, but one of the pictures that I took at Buckeye, I was going to have it blown up big and then it got lost someplace, but it was tracks in the snow. And I took it the photography at Buckeye, Pilgrim Hills.
My first year at Buckeye, we got 6 inches of snow on the second day, and we left RU with sunburn because it was like 75. And RU is always muddy, so
Yeah.
even in a drought.
Now, see, RU, I was a camp counselor at RU when it was first built. I was there for grand opening. I wasn't there for groundbreaking, but I was there the summer of grand opening and with all the camps that came in. And then after that, because that's where I met my husband, was at Recreation Unlimited. We turned around, then we got married there. And then went back and he actually got to go with me one year, and that was the year he had seizure in the shower. But yeah, he passed away 6 years ago. But yeah, RU has always been muddy.
Yeah, forever.
And they've
It's not just a seasonal thing.
What's that?
I'm glad it's not just a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were at RU?
Oh,
Because it's changed a lot.
early 90s. Yes, it has. It has. And I thought about even just going back and just driving.
Mm-hmm.
It's been
Their life center is
somewhere
the
between-
biggest change.
somewhere between 92 and 94 was the last.
That was the first year we were there. You got married after that.
Huh?
When did you get married?
91.
I know that was that. I went to that wedding.
Yeah, I was going to say you was there. McConaughey was supposed to sing, but his wife had to have emergency appendectomy. And so somebody from Rob's family went to pick up a cassette tape to play. So yeah, I forgot that you were there, but I remember pictures that you were there. But Rob didn't go to Buckeye until after that.
That was fun.
Yeah. Wow.
Memories and memories.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to Tom last night. I said, "Hey, people were looking for you last night. And you weren't here." Beth Reinhardt was another good friend of his, and then I told him that you were looking for him
Yeah.
and that you wanted to hear some of his songs. And he said, "Well, I can send her the link." So
Yeah.
Gave him your number.
Yeah, he goes, "This is Tom." I said, "Did Dave give you my number?" And he said, "Yes."
I didn't think you'd mind.
No, that was a joy always. And there's other people we was trying to think about how to reach out to, but the names don't come up until Pam brings up her pictures.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I know that some of us just got here, but
I'm gonna
call it for tonight. And it's good to see everybody again. Hope to see everybody in the chat tomorrow.
Before you go, Devon, how'd your game go tonight?
It went real well. It took me the first half of the first set. I was more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers, that's for certain. But, and I took a couple of the challenge reviews that the one coach submitted. I took them personally, and I was told in the locker room after the debriefing, nope, it wasn't anything I did. He was just being a jerk. But then again, he lost his 2 challenges, so oh well. And then I was talking to a line judge after I got home, and he said he saw me on ESPN3, and he said, because I had worked with him at high school Division I state finals. I did the Final 4 matches with him, and Jared said that he said, "You did good." He said, "When I got to see you did good." So
it's awesome.
But one more step into that realm, and we'll go from there.
There you go. You'll be at the Olympics soon.
Oh, I worked with a lady that did the 96 Olympics. Oh, she's ancient and she is set in her ways. I've worked with her twice, and she won't look at you. No way. But no, I don't think I'm going to the Olympics.
Well, it's good seeing you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.